Okay, thanks, Gabriel. And hello, everybody, and thank you so much for being here. Not everyone who's released from prison has a reentry plan that would help them to reenter society successfully, nor do people have much of a purpose, which in most cases has to be discovered. And finding your purpose can and most often does change the course of your life by giving new motives, new goals, new energy and drive. And tonight we are talking with Bryson McCalley, whose film company is Last of a Dying Seed, and who found his purpose in prison, which can't be easy when you think of prison culture as pulling you in a negative groupthink direction. So I really can't wait to learn more about this story. So first of all, Bryson, thank you for being with us, and thank you for being willing to share your experience and your story. So good to see you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here to just share my story and hope that whoever has not made that transition yet can really benefit from it and get the answers to that whatever questions they have.
Great. So let's just kind of start at the beginning here. Tell us about your upbringing and what was your family life like, and when you were growing up.
Well, I always say my childhood was short-lived, right? Because at a very early age, I was robbed of any ounce of innocence I was supposed to have at those ages. My father let me hold his guns at 6 years old. I've seen a lot of violence, both inside and outside the household. You know, my first, sexual experience was with an older girl when I was just like 6 years old. So I was introduced to a lot of those situations at a very young age. So I'll say my childhood was really short lived. And I'm the youngest of four boys. My father was a gang member, all my brothers was gang members. My mother, even though she didn't represent a particular neighborhood, she still grew up in the same chaos and had that mentality in a lot of ways. So I adopted those narratives because that was in my proximity. I come to realize that you can't aspire to be what you don't see. And my childhood was pre social media. I didn't see the world. All I see was what was in my proximity. So in my survival state, I'm seeing what you got to do to survive from the characters around me, and the trauma that they're going through and how that trauma conditions them, how they respond to that. And I internalize that as my own, as a way to gain my own personal power and control my own narrative, not realizing these narratives was actually passed down to me and what I wasn't in alignment with who I really was supposed to become. But before figuring that out, I followed the same footsteps as my father, as my brothers, and jumped into the streets at a young age. I joined the gang at 15 years old. And from there, thinking that is the path out, I only got deeper within it. And deeper I got within it, the more corrupt I became, and I began to self sabotage my own future. And at
Yeah.
18 years old, I got arrested for three attempted murders,
Mm.
gang violence. And at 19 years old is when I got sentenced to 30 years in state prison for that. And that was my first adult case. And when I went to prison, I got introduced to a whole new world and situations that many of the people that I knew didn't talk about. The dehumanizing side of prison.
Mhm.
So when I went in there, I expected violence. I grew up in violence, but I didn't expect all the other stuff that comes with it. When they're allowed to strip you naked on any given occasion, tell you to squat and cough. That was so dehumanizing to me. When the food that they fed us, they wouldn't even feed their own dogs. That was
Mm.
dehumanizing. Sitting in a little box where you could stretch both arms and touch both walls, and you have to be in there 24/7. That was dehumanizing. But my perception was more ego driven in the beginning, not wanting them to defeat me. So immediately I was looking for an outlet. a mental outlet in a way that didn't do more harm than good. So drugs was out the question, alcohol was out the question. What else do I have? And thank God, my first cellmate has been down 30 years. And it's crazy
Mhm.
because I went in there with 30 years. So it was like the complete reverse. And he had 3 life sentences and he was able to give me his bag of regrets.
Yeah.
So,
Let me just back up a second. Because I wanted to just find out, like, in a gang affiliated family, did you go to school? Did you have any kind of relatives get together, picnics? Did you do anything that you thought, did you think would be what most people would say was normal, like Christmas, like Thanksgiving gatherings, like sending your kids out on Halloween? I don't know, just all the sort of the normal, going on fishing trips. What was it like?
I would say the most normal thing was Christmas because even though we grew up in poverty, my mom would make sure we had something under the tree when that time came around. So that was like the most because it was times I had to go a whole year wearing the same pair of shoes. So I know at Christmas I would probably have a new pair of shoes. So that was like the most normal thing to look forward to. But in regards to education, nobody promoted or encouraged education in my household. I got kicked out nearly every year. I got arrested for the first time when I was 8 years old. So it's like these
Wow.
things that I was going through was not too much of a shock value to me because it was already normalized when I was growing up before I went through it.
Yeah.
So I'm just a part of that same cycle and going through the systemic changes that I seen my brothers and my family go through.
Hmm. Hmm. So when you were a kid, did you have any like dreams or goals?
I had, I wouldn't say a goal. I had a deep interest in language. I was always a child of language. The the people I grew up around, they spoke differently, and I loved how they played with their words. You know, they was in a certain lifestyle, criminal lifestyle, but it was like the way they use their language. And then growing up in the era where hip hop is big, being a part of a
Yeah.
culture where hip hop is big, I took to that. I was writing music at 13 years old. I started writing poetry at 16 years old and recording mixtapes, but I never had a goal of just, oh, I want to be a big superstar. It was just something I really took to.
Yeah. What do you think it was about that you gravitated to? What was it?
It was the way you could paint pictures with your words, the way you can like really get your pain and your passion across just using your language. Like I just really
Yeah.
took to that
Yeah. So like just in prison, um, somewhere along the way though, something happened. I know when you and I were talking, you just explained it to me, but along the way, something caused you to want to break from the life that you were living in prison, which means you had to break from the family tradition, if you will.
for sure. For
What
sure.
was that? What happened? How did that aha moment kind of come about?
Well, I always say it started with a book. Once again, I don't come from an educational background, but when I began to open up my first books, one of which being As a Man Thinketh by James Allen, that really attacked the mind and caused me to think and made me aware that
Mm,
I was the problem, that I had the power to choose what direction I went in life. Prior to, when you have the gang mentality, a lot of times you're stuck in victimhood. You're blaming everything outside of yourself for your actions to
yeah,
justify what you're doing.
yeah.
So that's the state I was in. I was in a state of denial for a long time. But when I read that book, it really challenged that, and I was open minded enough to be challenged. And that's what gave me that spark. But I was changing. It was no overnight success because I pretty much was inserted with that mentality while I was still in the womb because it was generational.
Hmm.
So I had it in me for so long that it wasn't an overnight success. I had to continue to read and read and read. And I was, even though it was hard, I was open to the pain of the process because I wanted more than what reality was showing me at that time.
Yeah. What was the what was the, let's say, the steps that you took that really changed your life in prison? I know reading. How did you how did you take what you were reading and applied it somehow to be different? Because you had to. You had to do something to
Yeah,
be. You were going to get out and be different. You had to start in the inside to be different, right?
for sure. And one thing, the interesting thing about prison is that no matter what you're studying, especially if it's about the mind, psychology, philosophy, human behavior, success, prison, you're constantly met with situations that's going to force you to practice that. Like that's the interesting about prison because when you're in survival mode, your brain is always tapping into its resources of what it has to make it through this moment. So speaking on a high level was survival. Thinking every situation was part of survival at first.
Yeah.
In every book I read, I was met with these situations that forced me to do that. How can I overcome this or dodge this or get away from this with no bloodshed?
Yeah.
So I was forced to practice that, and it just so happened to work in the real world. But at that, when I first started changing, I wasn't thinking about the real world. I'm thinking about surviving in there and during that time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I began to learn about business and other things towards the world, the free world.
So, but I'm assuming that the gang life it's a violent life. How did you start to see through that? What was it that said, I don't need to I don't need to be violent? I mean, that can't be that easy. You didn't just, like you said, you didn't just stop on a dime. It took some time, but what was happening inside of you, inside your heart, inside your mind, what something was happening that you're probably going to be challenged because you're trying to be different. How did
It
you
was
deal with people that are going, what's up with you? What's going on with you?
right. It was a multitude of things. It was the mentors that I was blessed to come in contact with. It was because that helps. I believe that's step two. And even though I wasn't alcoholic, I believe that's step two in one of the anonymous,
Yeah.
where somebody who took the role before you have
Hmm.
changed and is able to reach back and give you that insight. So I'm
Yeah.
seeing thoroughbred killers turn around and say, look, this ain't it.
Yeah.
So it's like that helped, including the books I was reading, the insight that God was giving me in that time that allowed me to challenge what I thought made sense, my warped backwards belief system. So
Mm.
that helped as well, on top of, you know, realizing what I was doing to my parents, how I was pretty much chasing my mom to her grave with the stress I was putting on her. When you're a child and you're operating off pure emotion, you're not thinking about the damage you're causing to everybody else because it's all about you in your
Yeah.
brain. So that right there just opened up my eyes, and then I just start seeing the foolishness of it all and start getting more and more in touch with my humanity. I start talking to God more. Like I wasn't doing that on the streets. So it was a multitude of things that really helped me through that process. And at the same time, I was also comfortable in my skin. I wasn't worried about what somebody was going to do for me. I mean, do to me, because I was always a person that believed that if you truly believe in it, you should be willing to die for it. So I was like that negative, and I'm still like that positive. This is what I believe in. So if you want to hurt me for being positive, go ahead.
Mm.
That was my the only hardest part about the change was I went through an identity crisis because who I was, I thought like that was me. So now it's like, who are you without this? It's
Yeah.
not what they think. It's like, what is your self story now?
Yeah.
So that was like the real hardest part. And then the second hardest that was right behind that was just cutting off relationships because
Mm.
I haven't been betrayed in that life. So it's like you cutting off people who you thought had love for you, but you become to realize that y'all didn't even love yourself as individuals. And
Yeah.
that's why you lived a suicidal life.
Hmm.
So if I can't help you as far as old associates, like I'm helping myself, we ain't got nothing to talk about because I understand my addiction to the lifestyle. I understand what can cause me to relapse, which is people, places, and things. So I can't deal with you no more until, for one, I'm comfortable and I'm strong in it in my presence now. And two, if you're trying to come this way with me.
Hmm.
Outside of that, we ain't got nothing to talk about.
Hmm. What were some of the things that you started to see? You use the word foolish. What was some of the things that you started to see as foolish that you knew you were probably doing, and then you was like, oh, I'm not doing that. I can't do that anymore. If I'm going to be somebody else, I can't be that old person. What were some of those foolish things that you saw?
First things first is declaring somebody my enemy that I don't even know. That
Hmm.
was first things first because it's like they didn't even try to do nothing to me until I told you was my enemy and I tried to do something to you.
Yeah.
So that's foolish in itself. Willing to lose this one life you have to live over colors in the street corner that you don't even own. Just everything about it, I just start seeing as ridiculous and how I was so, for lack of a better word, hell bent on pursuing this. But one thing about a kid in any human being, one of the most powerful drivers is a sense of purpose. And I had
Yeah.
such a big void in my life that I felt like the street life gave me purpose.
Hmm. Speaking of purpose, which is key to your life, I think, since we met and we were talking, how did you come to find your purpose? Did it come like immediately? Did it come, was it, like I said, the aha moment? What was your purpose that came to you? How did you know it was your purpose, not
Right.
just a
I believe it.
dream?
Right. Exactly. I believe it came in breadcrumbs. It came in increments. And in hindsight, I was able to connect the dots.
Hmm.
Because
The
a lot of
breadcrumb
times,
trail.
yeah, a lot of times the world will tell you about yourself, whether it's good or bad, and we don't pay attention to it. Like people always told me, like, man, you a storyteller, and I never really like paid attention to it. It wasn't until I began to shed that dead skin of the old mentality that I began to reconnect with my passion, which connects to my purpose, and that was impacting lives through storytelling. So it was over a series of time until I really locked in. I would say 2017, where I really was like strong on I want to impact lives through storytelling.
Yeah.
And through a series of events, I end up coming across Last of a Dying Seed, where we not only impact lives through storytelling, we decode the stories that impact lives
Yeah.
using film analysis.
Yeah. How did you come to the idea of film being like, okay, that's my medium?
Okay, because I went through every other medium and it was nothing more powerful to me than visual storytelling. So I knew I wanted to be in film. I just didn't know exactly what God had in store for me. I just knew I was going to be in that industry. And it wasn't until my last month before freedom. I just got granted parole. I got granted parole on my first time. They let me. The Senate Bill 261 passed that labeled me a youth offender, and that allowed me to see the parole board on my 15th year. And
Yeah.
when I did so, I got granted on the first one, but I still have 4 months to go because they had to send it to their higher ups to see if they agree with the decision. So it was about my last month out where I was having a conversation with a childhood friend, and I said, out of everybody you introduced to this lifestyle, everybody you taught, where they all at? And he was quiet. I said, they either dead, in jail, or off drugs. And I said, I'm
Hmm.
not innocent in that. Everybody I taught is either dead, in jail, or off drugs. I said, all our seeds done died off.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that night, that's when the name hit me, Last of a Dying Seed. Those that we are replanting ourselves. And
Yeah.
everything we produce from here on out is going to bear fruit. And shortly after that, I was watching The Woman King on TV. And it was in that movie that I was able to relate a scene in there to a real life situation. And that's when I got the epiphany for what we do on a YouTube channel, where people come on there and they pick a movie that they believe relates to their life experience. And it shows how a movie can deepen understanding about real life circumstances. Film is used as a mirror. So that's what that came about.
Yeah. You had also mentioned that earlier that there was a group of people that you could relate to when you started to change the direction of your life. How did that come about that you met up with people that were kind of wanted to go in a different direction? How important was that in prison to find people that could help you, that would support you?
A lot of times, I would say most of the time, people found me. Just like in a free
Why would they
world,
find you? So why did they
because
find you?
for their own journey that they're on. So when you're a person that's consistent in what you're doing in life, your energy attract other energies of like kind. And I was a person that when thank God he blessed me with when I spoke to somebody, it left an impression. And whenever they spoke to someone else, they would refer me. Like, man, you
Hmm.
need to go talk to Bryson, man. He be talking like this, and that. So, and God also blessed me with the ability to be self-driven, to be self-taught. So a lot of stuff I learned on my own. And it was only through conversations with other people that it only sharpened me just a little bit more. So
Yeah.
people was finding me, and I was able to nurture those relationships as we went on. And it was always people like referring me to other people or introducing me to other people who was on the same page or wanted to get to where I was at.
Yeah. You hear a lot of people talk about vulnerability being a weakness, and that the last thing you want to do is show weakness. But if you're going to share yourself, you're going to be vulnerable. You
For
have to be,
sure.
right?
Sure.
How is it that people started to maybe feel comfortable in a group talking and sharing things that maybe they didn't think they could share just broadly to all the inmates?
For me, I was comfortable in my own skin to where I was able to be vulnerable when need be. But it's easier said than done. I'm not the one who had it all figured out. A lot of times your brain try to psych you out of asking people for help, or asking questions and letting people know that you don't know something. And then I'm a part of a subculture where it's all ego and pride driven.
Yeah.
So it's easier said than done. But once again, I believe God blessed me with that type of attraction to where men will confess things to me. They not even telling their own whatever gang they're a part of. Because they like Bryson, they don't want to hear this from me. Like they just want to see me get violent. So it was just something about my push because I was consistent. I'm
Mhm.
probably one of 5 dudes on the whole yard with 200 people that walk around with books in his hand. So, but I was consistent.
Yes.
So I made
How
you feel
important is that? How important is that? Being consistent.
that's important. That's extremely important because just like, speaking to the men that's in there, just like it was a daily practice for us to develop into the monsters we was, it's going to take a daily practice to climb up out of that and turn your actions into habits and habits into something that's second nature to you, to being positive. You got to be consistent. And not only that, just thinking on a political level with that environment, if you, as far as blacks, if you choose to change your life, most of the time they're not going to do nothing to you if you're consistent.
Yeah.
Now, if you're straddling the fence, that's when you
Yeah.
get hurt
Yeah. Why is that?
because a lot of times it's because people are depressed. People still have a chip on their shoulder. They still live an unexamined life and they're already in a violent mindset. So if you do something, you're straddling the fence for any reason, like I did growing up, they gonna make something up in their head that's
Mm.
going to give them a reason to do something to you. But if you're consistent, you just on a positive tip, they just going to let you do you.
Yeah. How in the group that you were with, how much did you have to challenge other guys to be consistent, to stay consistent? How much challenging do you do with each other?
Yeah, it's called you got to have accountability partners,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay.
because sometimes, well, a lot of times, if you're doing a long time in there, you're going to be doing this consistent thing for so long, whether it's positive or not, to where sometimes you just don't want to do it no more because you have to delay gratification. You still probably got 10 years to go
Yeah.
to actually implement this in the real world. So
Yeah.
sometimes you just may not want to do it, which allows the devil to come in and entice you with other temptations. So
Mm.
you have to have an accountability group or accountability partner that's gonna be like, hey man, hold on, no, don't do that. Come over here.
Yeah. When you were on the inside and you found that you had a purpose and that you were helping other people, what what was this? Did you have a sense of freedom? Because I've heard people say use the word freedom. We just heard a guy was talking about, that he said I was in for all those years. He said I was free back in 2008, and he just got out. I said I was free since 2008. So talking about what you're just talking about, he was consistently free. Did you
Right.
sense that? Did you sense freedom?
For sure. Like the moment I say got into alignment with who I'm supposed to be and
Yeah.
become, I was free from that point on. That's where
Mm.
freedom comes from. In all actuality, is perception. Your perception is more powerful than your circumstance.
Yeah.
You know, the circumstance did not change, but as long as you can shift your perception and how you see your circumstance, I could have saw myself as a psychological casket.
Yeah.
But the High Desert State Prison Level 4 had zero programs when I first got there.
Yeah.
I could have saw
That's
that
where
as
that's where you were. You spent
yeah,
most of your time there.
and I could have saw that as a psychological casket. But my perception is I'm gonna see it as a think tank. I'm gonna
Yeah.
use this as an opportunity to build. And that
Yeah.
that perception changed everything for me, even though my circumstances didn't change.
Yeah. What I find fascinating is that we've talked to a lot of people, and the idea that you get parole on the first trip and before the parole board, that is extraordinarily unusual. Mostly they're going to say, oh, well, we'll see you in 3 years, or we'll see you in 5 years, or whatever. Even though you might be a changed individual, you
For
know.
sure. And I had
How, what is it you think? What do you think was it that you gave off that made the parole board just go, this is like a no-brainer. This guy, yeah, he's no longer a risk. He doesn't need to be here.
right. I would say three things come to mind. I was sincere, I was insightful, and I had a plan. And I wasn't playing when I went in there. I'm not doing this. I came in with the mindset that my truth is between me and God. I'm not coming in there to try to run laps around you. I'm letting you know who I am today, who I plan to become if you let me out, and that's it. I'm not I'm not afraid of you. I'm afraid of God. You know, so that's the mentality I went in there, and I believe they heard the conviction in my tone when I spoke.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. How, how did you become a filmmaker, though? I mean, you said you didn't have any film equipment, you didn't have any film instruction. You just came out and something was like, all right, what do I need to do? What did you need to do? How did you get it from where you were day of release to becoming, okay, I'm going to do some film. I'm going to be a film director.
For sure. It was I always tell men on the inside, be obsessive in your preparation for one. But at the same time, understand you're not gonna have everything figured out because you've been gone. And you never know who you're gonna be introduced to. It's always somebody you gotta get behind you, go around, build relationships with, sever ties with. You never know how that's going to cause you to go back to the drawing board, but at the same time, be obsessive in your preparation. And that's what I was. I used to pass up packages. I wasn't even having money. I used to pass up the opportunity to get a food package to order books from Amazon when I was in
Really?
prison. I was that serious about my life and my future. And you got to be that serious about your life and your future. And when I got out, I was in a transitional home for the first 6 months.
Yeah.
Struggled to set up my laptop. I never had a laptop before. I grew up in poverty. Struggled to set up my laptop. But at the same time, when I figured out how to record myself, that's the first video on the YouTube channel. And from that
Wow.
point on, I said, where's the closest college I can get to? It was in
Wow.
walking distance. I went to the college. I got into and I became a film student there.
Yeah.
From there, I entered another offshoot film program that the kids created amongst each other to keep it going. So I'm like, I'll be a
Yeah.
part of that too. And then that's
Yeah.
why I was able to act in a few student films to get my experience in that. I was able to do a few classes. I went through another program to be a production assistant. I still work on commercials and music videos and TV shows and stuff like that. And it's
Yeah.
just getting out there because books can only teach you so much on
Yeah.
how to master a system, but your
Yeah.
experience going to allow you to master people to get people skills and to really be out there. So I was fearless because of where I came from. So the nerves that came from not knowing, I was able to push through that because once again, studying books, I was reminded that you got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And you'll find more people that want to help you than people that just want to tear you down.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to be okay being stupid.
For sure.
Yeah.
For
I think
sure.
that's one of the things that stops most of us in life is that I just don't want to look stupid. So I'm not
Right.
going to learn. I'll just act like I do know stuff and just fake it till I make it, which is a kind of a idiot thing to say anyway. But I would love to see some of the clips. I asked you if you could bring some of your film work, just so that we could see something that
Yes.
you've produced, and I also want to know why you produced this work. What is it that you see as the future of this work? What's so important about this work to you?
Man, it's already once again I understood the power of film. That film can help people gain a deeper understanding about real life circumstances. This is before I began to even do research with the American Psychology Association, where they understand that film increases people's sense of identity, decision making, and all of these things. That's before I even studied that. I just felt it and knew it. And the more insight I gained, the more insightful I became as far as my hindsight and realized that in the streets, people emulate characters,
Yeah,
people quote characters to
yeah,
justify their actions. Like people, like movies are real influential and powerful. They're not only a mirror, but they can be used as a weapon. Also, and nowadays people are risking their lives in ways to where movies are almost on a level of a religion nowadays. Film media and narrative are the most powerful things that man has made to date. So
yeah,
that's what made me create this channel, which is really just the ground level of MQ, a framework that I created called Movie Intelligence Quotient,
yeah,
where it's a form of perception intelligence, the ability to consciously interpret how stories, symbols, and cinematic narratives shape identity, belief, emotion, and behavior.
yeah,
So what I put together for you that you asked me is these videos. I put together like a couple. It's like a 5 minute long video just to highlight how
yeah,
people relate movies to their lives.
yeah. Love to see.
Okay.
I love that you're doing this. I don't know. I've never heard of anybody doing videos like what you're talking about. I think this is kind of special.
And it's so amazing because of the people, the responses that you get. Like
Yeah,
when people call me, men who was in that lifestyle but don't want their kids to grow up in it, calling
yeah,
me talking about, I made my son watch this interview you did 5 times. I
yeah.
made, or when people call you crying because they like, man, she told my story and stuff like
Hmm.
that. So it's deep.
Hmm.
See if I can share the screen. Uh,
Yeah, you should be able to. And make sure you click the sound button for sharing the sound too.
Okay.
And if you do optimize for video, also, since we are posting this on our YouTube channel, I'm not sure if we'll get like oh, this contains copyrighted information from this other channel, but we'll see.
No, because we got free copyright use as long as it's educational purposes.
Sure.
Yep.
How do you do
I just know sometimes I've had videos that contain things that are like, YouTube is very strict about their copyrights and all that.
right? Can you walk me through how to share this?
Sure. So you're on a computer, right now?
Yeah.
In that bottom bar, you should have a little share icon in your
Okay.
Zoom.
Is
So if you
that the
click on
green?
that, you can then select either a window or your full desktop.
Okay. You guys see me?
It looks like, yep, there you go.
Yep. There you go.
Okay. And now you said the sound. Share computer sound. On mono or stereo?
Either one is probably fine.
Came from being a young man sitting down.
Did you hear it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so here.
And we can also send a link to people.
Because of that movie, I was like, oh my God, there's other people that go through this. I didn't know I was stuck on a cycle until years later.
A lot of my ideas, my street aspirations came from being a young man sitting down watching that movie and like, man, you know what I'm saying? That's it right there. Like, what am I doing?
Right.
Sitting at home watching this, you know what I'm saying, when it's right outside.
Exactly.
And then when I went outside and actually seen it, it became a real thing. Like, this is really right outside my door. This is real. So, what character do I want to be now?
Little Giants is a profound movie to me because back in my days, right, I kind of struggled with a lot of the things that them kids struggle with, right? That's the insecurity, and watching that movie in the past and even watching it today, right, it still give me inspiration, because for some reason I still have an underdog mentality. It'll never change, I believe, right? Probably because, the household I was raised in, the community I was brought up in times with struggling, when I used to compare myself to other athletes or other people in the world, it helped me tell myself that I was good enough.
I just went with Belly because for our culture and for our people, I can relate to how we treat our black women, the drugs, the peer pressures, the way we survive, the things that we do to survive. A lot of us live our whole lives trying to find that plug, that ox. My uncle was ox. Ox type of guy. My father was a hitman in the Black Gorilla family.
The reason why it ties so much into my life, and specifically that moment, is because I truly feel that there was a moment in my life where I had to confront my enemy, which was my own self, like the inner enemy within me, which is, I feel, the greatest enemy that we all have. It's like that feeling of, those limiting beliefs that I had, the self-doubt, that enemy that was keeping me from living another life and reaching my full potential. So I feel like when he confronted his greatest enemy, the one that took everything from him, it was a moment when I was able to connect with, as far as I had to do the same thing, so to speak, but in my own way, with my own self, and that enemy being the other side in the mirror, when I had to confront that man and proclaim who I am with pride now. And in doing so, breaking the bonds that old me had on me. And so for me, that's why that movie stands out so much and I connect with it.
For me growing up, I suffered with addiction. Still do. It kind of never really leaves you. You know what I mean? So seeing this movie, I felt really that it just tells a whole story of addiction based off of the younger generation all the way to her mom. And you see that, and you see the toxic relationships that it gathers, and then you see the love and the support system. For me, I've always wrote poetry. So right in the beginning, she tells, it's her mom, her poem. And they don't even dive deep into why she's writing it, what she's writing about. She kind of stands over it, right? So I feel like that, in a sense, was her cry out before she even touched drugs. You gravitate towards something that's going to make you feel good. And for me, poetry has always made me feel good.
When he said, you know, all I ever wanted to be was a gangster, like, that was my understanding. Like, oh, this is being a man. You know what I'm saying? Like being a gangster and being a man was two of the same things. They went together. And so, like, when he was like, yeah, the people that work, like, they were miserable, man, we was hustling. So I always wanted to be a hustler. I always wanted to be a part of the crowd, you know, a part of the brotherhood of the homies, you know what I mean? So when I saw that movie, I was like, okay, yeah, this is something that's like feeding to my story as a kid, you know.
They control my narrative. They abducted me. No warrant, no affidavit for my removal, and took me. They beat me for days. They hid me for over a month and a half away from judges. Until my injuries healed and they took me before one. I'm a dirty little secret. I've been here 50 years. And it's nowhere in the world that in 50 years of them doing this. I am the character in the movie that had a false narrative that we were both free. We were both free from the sadistic, brutal abductions of white supremacist Klans members. I survived this. A lot of the dudes that the Cowboys, Frank Hanratty and his team sent to prison, they done died out. Most of them done died. You know, I'm the last little dirty secret.
Yeah, so that was a few interviews and stuff, and we just see that how movies actually impacted these people's lives, whether it's before they got into their dark state or that helped them get through their state. By watching the movie is helping them to explain what they was going through.
I you know what? It's very moving stuff. I mean, because it's just so raw and so beautifully authentic, and I just think you got a great future in the work that you're doing. I'd like to know how are you working with the prisons and to get video footage and films made, or are you working to get work into the prisons, or what's your goal?
With MQ right now, I'm in talks with my first prison. Prior to when I first got off parole, I started going into the prisons with an organization called the Five Ventures that teaches both incarcerated and formerly incarcerated persons to be entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So I went through their cohort when I was in the transitional home. I passed it. Now I'm their alumni, and I go back inside with them, both the men prisons and the women prisons, and mentor. Teach them how to become entrepreneurs, because in California, I feel like that's important, not just a way of giving back, but giving back in that manner, because America is already expensive. California is extremely expensive, and you're only getting out with $300 gate money.
Yeah.
And so if you have the ability and the willpower to carve out your own path, I want to be there to help you facilitate that.
Well, love that. This is great. Right now, we could open this up to anybody that's got questions for Bryson.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so if you'd like to ask a question, go ahead and either raise your physical hand or your Zoom hand, and we'll call on you. And I wanted to say, while people are deciding if they want to ask you a question, Bryson, I thought that entire approach that you're taking, it's so smart. So smart, because it's that language of cinema. It's a really universal medium that, I mean, it does hit every level of communication, and using that to kind of open the door to a conversation that you want to have with people. I think that's brilliant. And thank you for sharing that montage of what you've been doing. And I want to make sure that we've got your YouTube channel linked in the chat as well. So that if people want to check out more of your work and like and subscribe, they can.
Absolutely. And comment, because the people who give these interviews, they also go back and read the comments to see like who cares about their story.
Yeah. I noticed you had Carlos Vasquez in there, who we've interviewed, and he's one of the people we interviewed for the Ready for Reentry certification course, actually. So his voice is going to be beaming into people's tablets on the inside.
Right.
Yeah, he was so good. Eleanor, was that a hand I saw up? If you want to unmute yourself.
Thank you, Bryson. That was so powerful. I do have a question. You said something about your perception is more powerful than your circumstance. And I just love that. And I think it's kind of like I think you said that was when you found your freedom. That was when you became free. Am I right?
Yes. Once I realized that, and all I had to do was shift my perception, which is also a blend of my beliefs and values, everything changed for me. Like everything. Like I know I saw prison as a university now because I can learn from everything and everyone and really be ready to go home. See, many of men, it just be the prison talking because they don't want to be there. So they talk a good game. I talked a good game for like 5 years straight. And it wasn't until it actually became me that I can look back and be like, yeah, that was just the prison talking. Because if they would have only gave me 5 years, it would have been terrible. So only God knows that I needed that space. I hate to say prison saved me, but I needed that space and that sit time to really reconnect with who I'm supposed to become.
Do you feel like the prison helped you in that sort of change that you went through, or was that strictly your own ability to do that?
Well, prison just gave me the space, and I went in there at a time where it was zero programs. It's not like nowadays where they got the tablets now, they got a lot to choose from, a lot of options. And there's a saying that we all know that you grow through what you go through, but I heard a better saying that said you grow through what you're exposed to, and without an educational background, without social media to where we can see the world, without people coming into my life who have seen something different, all I was exposed to was violence. I couldn't grow through that. It's a cap on that. But when I went to prison and I started reading books about the world, I started reading books about human beings, I started reading spiritual books, philosophy books, like I'm growing because I'm exposed to these things now. And now I'm aspiring to want more.
So I would say in biblical terminology, you'd put off the old man and put on the new man.
For sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, we have in our church a Bible lesson that we study every day. It's considered to be part of our religious activity, and some people might call it a devotional, is what other religions use. But in the particular topic this week is man. And one of the words that's frequently comes up in this lesson is the word perfect. And I think it's so interesting to think about what does it mean to be perfect, because the word implies something that perhaps we think we can't achieve, perfection. You know what I mean? But I think it's interesting to read what the word actually means in the original Hebrew and Greek. And it means to be mature or fully formed or professional. We could think of the word perfect as being a master craftsman. And so that it's, to me, it doesn't it allows us to work up to that level of perfection. In other words, that idea of being a master craftsman at life, which is what I think you ended up doing, is you realized that you didn't have to accept the old situation, and that I'm just putting out that as a comment that this model of perfection is been around for obviously a long time, but we can all in every situation we run into find ways to improve and become quote perfect unquote in that sense. Another big term or idea in our religion is that of making models and having models. And it seems like to me what you have done with the music or with the movies is you have brought those models up to the front and center so that people can look at them saying, am I following the right model? Right. But
Sure.
anyway, thank you very much.
Yeah, and I believe, yeah, we look at perfect as being like without flaw, without fault, you know. But that's not, like you said, is maturity, is development, is reaching a certain level of self actualization of who you supposed to become, you know. But you still will make mistakes. And when it comes to like models, I understood and I understand that once a video is uploaded, it's there forever. You know, God could call me home tomorrow. These interviews are going to be here forever. I understood that. So I'm intentional with what I say, how I say it, and what we're uploading. And the channel has to have integrity. You know, though I represent those who walk similar paths, if you're still on the same page, you're not coming on this channel. You know, so I have to know who I'm interviewing and know that they have made that transition. And when they speak with conviction, and it's going to carry. Just like you got a lot of self-help books who touch on the same topics, but they're all effective in their own way because everybody processes information differently. So no matter how many men or women come on this channel touching on the same topics from different movies, they're going to have an impact. And overall, this channel will have an impact on the world, which is what's intended.
Awesome. Marshall, I see your hand is up, and then we'll go to you, Deb.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Wonderful. Bryson, good for you for what you've done. I was a college professor at Cal State LA in marketing, and I started the first entrepreneurship program in the state at the undergraduate level in 1975, and I was director of the Institute of Entrepreneurship for 25 years. And I really admire that have been successful as an entrepreneur. It's not the easiest thing to do. Did you have a business plan? Did you make up a business plan?
It's interesting. You know, they say we plan and God laughs at us because you never know what path he's going to take you on to get there. So the vision has never changed, but the plan has changed along the way because my intent was to go back to LA County where where I got arrested, but with a different agenda. They sent me 2 days before I was released. They told me I'm going to Palm Desert, California. I never even heard of Palm Desert until then. And I'm like, where is that? So they sent me 3 hours from where my plan was to be. And now I had to adapt to that situation. But my childhood has always been inconsistent and I had to adapt. So I was comfortable with being uncomfortable and I knew how to do just that. So even though I had to go back to the drawing board, I figured it out every step of the way. And that's the beauty about information, absorbing information, because that helps you in adapting to situations. And I was able to do that effectively. And the vision has always been the same. It just got more clearer, more refined and defined with my experiences.
Starting a business is very risky. 90% of all new businesses fail within 3 years. And there was a study that took a look and see why did 10% succeed. And it turned out that all the ones that succeeded had a written business plan, and the ones that failed did not. So it really is important. I have a book. It's not in print anymore, but you can get it online. It's called Marketing a New Business by Marshall Reddick. And if you ever have anybody that wants to start a business, it would be very helpful if they could read that. Byron, my first returning citizen, decided he wanted to become a handyman. And so I made him develop a business plan. And it's just been a year since he started. And he's profitable now, which is pretty incredible because it usually takes about 3 years for a business to become profitable. So I offer that to any of you that have anybody that believes they would like to become an entrepreneur. And I'd be happy to, help them with the business plan and everything when they become interested. It's crucial that they have some support because financially it can be costly to start a business. And our church became an angel church. And for example, one of the guys came up and bought Byron a really nice van to be able to do his business. A number of the people in the Angel Church provided him tools and so forth. So it's important that you have support, and then it makes it much easier. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. Having a plan is important. Having support is important. And like for me, it was all those things: having a plan, having support, knowing how to build relationships, leverage your relationships, and always provide more value than what you're being paid. So that 90% of my opportunities came from recommendations. Because when I show up and it's time to perform, I really perform and it leaves an impression. And people are going to recommend people for their friends that feel like it's going to leave a good, value on their name because they're recommending you. So I realized that that's how the world works, and just it helped me understand the importance of people that much more. And also, even with support in a plan, like you said, it's not easy. You might wake up with cold sweat some nights, like wondering how you're going to pay the next month's bill, but out of nowhere, God always comes through for me, and you got to have more than one stream of revenue. You can't just put all your eggs in one basket. You got to have more than one. So that's what helped me. And I didn't become profitable till like the end of the second year. And that's only because intentionally I was focusing on creative output, just putting out as much as possible. And then I built the system around it.
I think the thing you said there, Bryson, about you had a plan and then you got what was it, 2 days before you got out was like, oh, just kidding. You're going to a completely different place. I have to imagine having developed the plan in the first place helped you adapt that plan when it came time, if I was to guess.
Exactly.
Yeah. Deb, I see your hand is up.
It's wonderful to listen to you. I can see why so many people have encouraged you about your storytelling, because the way you're expressing yourself is just, it's so clear. Your choice of words and everything is just so amazing. My question for you, Bryson, is how do you choose or go about getting the people who come and are on your podcast?
A lot of it came from, well, when I first started, like a third of all my early interviews was from people I knew.
Okay.
Like I literally used to go in my cell at some nights and go over conversations I had on the yard or wherever I was at and be like, man, the world don't even know the type of diamonds that's in this institution. Like it's crazy like how they just write us off, but we have so much to pour into society. The two best things is to have a merge of experience as well as book knowledge. And we have that. Like, I be hearing dudes talking and thinking the way they behave and what they're creating from just their brain. I'm like, wow. So to have this platform to really shed light on these people, I knew who to tap into because of all the conversations I had over the years. Like, hey, bro, you want to come on the channel? Yep. This is what I do. This is what we got to do, and this is a way for you to live amends by doing this interview. So a third of those interviews was people I knew, and from that point on, they started like bringing other people. Hey, I told this person about she want to come on or he want to come on, and it just started getting bigger and bigger to where people getting at me on Instagram now, like, oh yeah, I know that's interesting. Can I come on and stuff like that?
Word of mouth. Word of mouth. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Awesome. That's the best way, right?
Yes.
Wow. For those of you who didn't see it in the chat, I did paste in Bryson's YouTube channel as well as his Instagram and a link that is his like link tree, which also contains, I think, a link back to your main business site as well in there. So anybody who would like to kind of continue to be in touch with Bryson in the future, please go ahead and click on those, like and subscribe, comment. I think for people who are creating content in the YouTube universe, the algorithm really benefits when there's that engagement. And even if you just sit there and watch some of those videos, I think even that just to learn more and support Bryson, I think it's great. It's a good thing. Let's see. Do we have anybody else who has any questions for Bryson tonight before we wrap up? Pam.
Yes. When you were incarcerated, did you join a writers group? Was there a writers group there?
No, the yards. I understood that like San Quentin and other prisons had a lot more going on than most prisons, but all the ones I was on was like deprived of that type of stuff to where I took it upon myself when I was in High Desert State Prison in 2015 to throw an essay contest on the yard.
Right.
It was crazy. People was like, what? Why is you doing I got all these people, hardcore killers, using their brain, and I created a discussion group with the little money I had. It was like $20 in food. And I was like, man, who gonna get in this essay contest? Because really, I not only wanted to help, I wanted to learn.
Yeah. Yeah.
They didn't have any programs.
I had a professor at USC who taught playwriting to murderers at Tehachapi. And and then he wrote a play about it. So, but yeah, it was a fascinating thing to find out about. And just there's a lot of stuff to mine there, really.
Right.
Just as you found out. Yeah. Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lisa, I see your hand is up.
Yes. So thank you, by the way, Bryson, for all that you have been sharing. It is it's eye-opening for a lot of us, and it also helps us be better citizens and better helpers. So my question for you: you mentioned that your behavior was really stressing your mom out, and is your mom still around? And what does she think right now of your path?
Yeah, absolutely. She's still around. And she's proud of me every day. One thing about my mom, her love was like truly unconditional. To where as much as I was messing up, she still never forsaken me, But my insight helped me realize that though she was still there, you was causing a lot of pain and heartache with the stuff that you was doing. And for once, I want to get out and see her cry tears of joy. And not just tears of pain all the time. So that has became one of the batteries in my back to keep me going when things get hard. And yeah, she's still around. And one of these days, even though money's not everything, money has always been a core component of our troubles and our trauma. So to be the one to make her a millionaire before God calls her home, that's like a big push.
Okay. And how about your siblings? Like your brothers?
thank God they're all around. We was all living dangerous, but they're all around. We're not handicapped. We all choose a different path. They're all doing their own positive things and carved out their lane. So,
Do you think that your example helped them to say, whoa, I can do something different?
yeah, a few of them mentioned, I got 4 brothers, so a few of them did mention that. And I just talked to one today, the one I was actually in the prison with. I was in a cell with him in Centinela after we were separated for 13 years and end up linking up in Centinela. And I just talked to him today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Marilyn, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, thank you, Bryson, for your wonderful story. Unfortunately, I missed the first portion of it. And I don't know if you listed or if you mentioned some of the books or a couple of your favorite books that really spurred you on in the direction that you're going, that you're in right now. Was there a couple of favorite books or classes or something that really made a difference for you?
The first one for sure was James Allen, As a Man Thinketh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The Power of Now.
Oh yeah.
Me and Carlos actually did a podcast on that particular book, The Power of Now, and The 4 Agreements.
Oh,
that was amazing. Mastery by Robert Greene. Those are the top ones because I probably done read over 500 books. So them like the top ones that come to mind. And also my books, Prosaism.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Joseph, I see your hand is up.
Okay, congratulations, Bryson. I was in the high desert too, way back in 2001 to 2004.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, I've been out 6 years now. But did you parole from there?
No, I paroled from Old Folsom.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got some friends at least one friend in Old Folsom that's having a hard time getting out because he just like stuck with the old mindset. But yeah, I just wanted to say congratulations and keep up the good work. Did they start opening up classes when you were there in the high desert?
Oh, before I left, yes, because CR became an honor yard, so they started adding on. But it was a gang of anonymous classes. It wasn't no real I just once again did 15, so I know what's needed. I was a part of that problem, and I'm the one who didn't have any old wires to connect my new engine to. I had to build everything from scratch. So I know what we need, and we need a change of self-narrative. The stories that we're living by that causes us to function in a way to be dysfunctional. They don't have none of that. And all the research I've done has been scattered, and I'm the first one to codify it. So you know about Gogi and ARC and everything. A lot of that stuff be like cookie cutter dry stuff. And it'd be the individual who's able to dig deep within himself using these as to give greater context, because the board respects these classes, but it's really the individual that's going in there and that's able to articulate it on the level that he's doing. I'm giving you a program that actually works. So yeah, they only had a bunch of anonymous classes before I left in 2018.
Yeah, I remember my experience was that because you had all these different groups and you had these groups pitted up against each other, but the best thing about the classes is when you got them all in the room and people started telling their stories and you started realizing that you had more in common than you realized. And like sometimes people from different groups end up becoming best friends, and that would have never happened until you got into the same room and started talking.
Right.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting.
Exactly.
Lisa, I see your hand is up again.
Yes, up again. So I would be curious, Bryson, at some point or at what point did you start reading the Bible? I mean, it sounds I've heard you kind of allude to some of those ideas. What did you grow up with that a little bit? Was that one of the books you read? Where did that fit into your journey?
It fed in. It was a part of my overall process of finding who I am and what is this all about? What is my existence all about? You know, a lot of people call it soul searching, but it was a part of my just overall process. So, and then I had cellmates who chose one religion over another. So, listening to them, talking to them, reading the Bible, reading the Quran, reading Buddhist books, being in college, and one of the classes is world religion. So it's like I didn't go so deep as to a particular person would that labels themselves a Christian or labels themselves Islamic, but I did read those books and I have a good base level understanding of what those books are saying.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you again tonight, Bryson, for sharing your story. And thank you, David, for the prep you did on that. And again, we've got those links to Bryson's YouTube channel, his Instagram, and I'll also put in our link to Embrace Fully. We are on that final push right now to finish this course. And just like Bryson shared a video on his end, I'd like to share. This is sort of a very rough cut of the first video that somebody's going to see when they open this course on their tablet, called the Ready for Reentry Certification course. So here, let me get that queued up here. And thank you everybody for coming tonight. I really appreciate all of you. And yeah, let's see here. If I can do this.
Before you play the video, can I make one last
Oh, yeah,
statement?
please.
Because I don't know who will be watching this, so I just want to let it be known that as a curriculum, MQ is being piloted with high school students and people that's returning home, and any organization that's interested in exploring the structure pilot, you know, I'll be happy to connect.
Do you have a link for that you could share in the chat, or with David?
I have a
Yeah.
website that explains it.
Is
And
that on your link? Is that on the Linktree link that you've got?
I don't know. But I can put it in the chat though. It's just lastofadynasty.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I see it. Yeah, I got it here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll paste it in there. There you go. Awesome. So that could be worth checking out there too. And was there anything else that you wanted to say too? Before
I just appreciate this opportunity, and I hope and pray that it touches somebody or gives somebody some more insight in areas they were struggling with. And let's continue to be great. If you want to come on the channel, you got a movie you can relate to, let's do it. Let's continue to impact lives with storytelling.